This is a quail, and these are quail eggs, and you're getting f***ed. I never cared about money until I lost all my money closing my restaurant. So let's talk about it. Eggs and economics. All right, so today we're going to talk about how to hard boil a quail egg, and we're going to talk about inflation a little bit as well. So hard boiling quail eggs is my preferred method. They're easy to clean and then easy to work with from there, so you can just eat them as is after they're hard boiled, or you can peel them and then throw them into a stir fry or in a pasta or anything like that. So when I have a lot, which I have a lot of quail eggs now, that is my go-to method. Sometimes I'll fry them too, but you just need to eat a lot to equal the whole meal. So you need to like crack open 8 or 9 or 10 little quail eggs and fry them. So I mean, it works, but it's a little more annoying. So when I want to hard boil the quail eggs, the first thing I need to do is just get boiling water. So turn this stove on and get this water hot. And when I'm doing quail eggs as opposed to a chicken egg or a duck egg, there is, for me, a different method on how I actually will cook it. Larger eggs, chicken, duck, I start with cold water. Quail eggs, I start with hot water. There's no right way or wrong way to do it. I just know this method has always worked for me, and I don't like changing a method if it works. If you're cooking hundreds of eggs at a time, I just want to do the thing that worked last time and not have to worry that I'm doing a new method and mess it up. So yeah, for me it's quail eggs go in hot water. So let's get this water hot. So while we're waiting for that water to boil, I think like we hear about inflation, but I don't think not anyone, but most people don't understand how terrible it is and evil it is. Especially when the people that control the money, this group of people who are not the government, just a private group of people who make the money, they have a goal to have 2% inflation a year. If you watch Hard Money or you watch any sort of like business news, you hear about the inflation target and how we're not hitting the inflation target. That means that the Federal Reserve, the people that make the money, they have a goal of 2% inflation a year. That means that their goal is that prices go up 2% a year. Why? I want the prices going down. Why do you want the prices going up 2% a year? That seems crazy. And when you think about it, you can think about it as the prices are going up 2% a year. And the other way to think about it is that the value of your money is going down 2% a year. So you could imagine, let's say that you had $100 in savings in the bank. And every year, they just cut 2% off of it. That's their goal. So if you have $100, they just want to like cut 2% to take $2 away from you. So you have $98 worth of value left. Sometimes it can get very confusing when you're talking about economics because there's the actual number and then there's the value. Even though you still have $100 in your bank, it's not like they stole $2, but what they stole was $2 of value. So that $100 can only buy $98 worth of goods now. And then the next year, they take 2% of that $98. That's their goal that they stated as, which to me is incredibly messed up. And, you know, it's easy to have that sort of policy when you're the person who is able to make up the money and have as much as you want. But for the average person who works and saves US dollars in their bank account, you get screwed. So if you have cash in the bank, you're getting screwed every single year. All right, the water's boiling. So I can just drop my quail eggs in. If I had a big spider, I would drop them in delicately. I'd put as many as I want, don't matter. Then I could just turn it down to like a little bit of a simmer. So once they're in, set the timer for 4 minutes. 4 minutes is a go. Economics can be so complicated, and I think they make it complicated on purpose so you lose interest and get distracted or think it's too you just can't understand it. But it's really not that hard. They just make it hard. So when we have inflation, it's like, well, how do we know what the inflation is? Like, how do we know how much inflation is? If they're trying to get 2%, how can they measure that? So what they used to do is they used to take a basket of goods. So they would take like a pound of beef and like the average mortgage payment and a lot of different things. Something that involves with your healthcare, something involved with rent, something involved with food. I forget what the other categories are, but they had this basket of goods, and they would say, okay, a piece of steak was $6 a pound this year, and then next year it's $6.60 a pound. that means the inflation for beef was 10%. That's how they could measure that. And so that would be a good way, I think, to measure the inflation rate. Now the problem is that because that was an honest way to measure the inflation rate, and we actually saw that inflation is very high, they just changed it. They just changed how they measure it so it would look better, which is what, as you dig into more and more government policies and economic policies, you see that they constantly change the rules so they can make it look good for themselves. So in 1983, they changed, because the mortgage rates got too high, home prices got too high. They changed it, instead of being what it costs per month to buy a house, they changed it to what it costs a month to rent a house. So what they did was, instead of keeping a specific basket of goods, instead of measuring the exact same thing every year, they started changing it to measure what it's like to keep the same living standard per year. Instead of getting the same things, keeping the same living standard. So one way how they screwed and lied to you, lied to me, lied to everybody, was to change that. Instead of measuring a home price per month, we're going to measure a rent price per month. So it looks cheaper, so they can lie about the true inflation rate. And then, so I think one of the most screwed up things, in 1999, they started doing, oh, so that's our timer. So we want to make sure that we have an ice bath ready to go for these eggs. I'm going to turn the water off, and then we're just going to go straight into the ice bath. All right, so we'll let those cool down. So another thing that they did to make the inflation rate appear lower than it actually is they did something in 1999 called the substitute product. So what they could do is they could say, they give you a comparable product. So let's say that your family liked to eat steak every night or whatever, once a week, and that steak costs $5 a pound. And let's say that that steak price went up to $10 a pound, which would be an inflation rate of 100%. It went up double. So instead of comparing the steak to steak, they could compare it now to something similar like ground beef. So let's say the ground beef was now $4 a pound, and what used to be $2, and now it's $4, it went up 100% as well, but they're comparing the ground beef now to the steak, which was $5 a pound, so they see that as zero inflation. Because before you could have got a $5 a pound steak, now you can get a $4 a pound ground beef. That's a comparable product, therefore inflation is zero. Well, that's not right. You're lying. Then as we get into COVID and as beef gets more and more expensive, then we get into, well, if ground beef is $4 a pound and going to $8 a pound, let's compare ground beef to chicken breast, which is now $2 a pound or $4 a pound. So again, zero inflation rate. So they're constantly moving the qualifications and the categories to make it appear like inflation is lower than it truly is, so they don't have to lie to you. They just change the rules so they don't have to lie. You know, and another way that private companies will try to avoid inflation or to like shock consumers or customers, even though we see it, is shrinkflation. So if a private company's expenses are going up, your product just gets smaller. You know, that candy bar, I remember, I don't eat candy bars a lot, but I got one not too long ago, and it's a lot smaller than it used to be. So they try to still keep it in that same $1 price category or $2 price category, and the only way to do that is just make the thing smaller. So that's called shrinkflation. It's a way to hide the inflation that's occurring. And why would the government want to lie about inflation? Well, one reason is that a lot of our government policies are based upon the inflation rate. So if the inflation rate is low, that means that, quote unquote, means that the economy is doing well and that government spending can increase. We can spend more money because inflation is still low. Where if we knew the true rate of inflation, we would go, holy crap, we got to stop spending money, and the economy would respond, the stock market would respond by dropping drastically. And then everything affects one thing. So when the stock market falls, there's this whole other chain reaction that occurs that I'm not going to get into this video. But they have to continue lying about inflation so that they can continue to print as much money as they want or need. And so Yeah, that's really it. It gets very complicated. I'm going to try to break it down into small pieces. Another reason that they lie about inflation or try to hide the rate of true inflation is that a lot of spending is based upon what the inflation rate is, which is the consumer price index, is how much stuff is going up. It's the index of consumer pricing. So the consumer price index, which is how we measure inflation, determines some of like welfare benefits and social security payouts. So if inflation is going up, then the government has to give more money to people who are on welfare, people who are getting pensions, people who are just getting some sort of government subsidy. So that by misleading everyone on what the true rate of inflation is, they can continue to pay less for the people who are on subsidies or getting pensions in some way. So they're constantly lying so they don't have to pay more. All right, so let's start peeling these eggs. I'm just gonna roll these and crack them. I always find it easier to peel an egg in the water. Just makes it easy to peel a shell. Some of these eggs were from yesterday, so they're gonna be super fresh. And the fresher the egg is, the harder it is to peel. The older ones should just slip right out. Oh man, I broke it. But you can see they're really cute. They're cool little things. I'll peel a couple. You might be thinking like, well, where does inflation come from? Like, what is it? It's just an expansion of the money supply or monetary supply, which just means they printed new money. They just made it up and printed it, and now there's more. So the prices of stuff goes up. Or the other way to look at it, instead of the prices going up, is the value of the dollar or the value of your currency is going down. So if we actually knew the true rate of inflation, if it was admitted to by the government and by the Federal Reserve, the only way to stop inflation would be to stop printing money or to raise interest rates, which they don't want to do. They can't stop printing money and they can't raise interest rates, so they have no choice. So they can't even really let you know that the inflation rate's as high as it is because they have no solution to it. They can't get around it. Okay, so once I have these quail eggs peeled, from there I can use them any way I want, really. Pickling them is very good. Another option is to throw them into any kind of stir fry or any sort of stir fried noodle. You can eat them warm, you can eat them hot. Probably the most simple way would just be salt and pepper and then just dipping, and that's quite good as well. Basically, we've come to a point in our economy where there's no getting around the inflation, and the inflation rate's only going to get higher because of the amount of money that they're printing. The only safety that you really have, especially for the average person who's not deep in the market, who doesn't really understand and just wants to just do something safe and not try to play too many angles, is trade your US dollars for gold, Bitcoin, or silver. That's it. Those things will protect you from inflation. Ask me some questions, please. Have a nice day. This is a quail. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Last one. You're doing a great job. 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 I'm sorry. You're doing a great job. You're going to be famous.